I'll tell you what makes it really hard for the opposition. That was Melbourne coach Simon Goodwin. Is just give the ball to Max from 50. He'll just smash it home. There's offense 101. Max. And the man himself, Max Gawn, Melbourne captain, joins us on the line. Afternoon, Max.
Afternoon, Jim. I think it was 60 is my gut feel.
Oh, 60, good man. Yeah, that is actually the way you do it. Each day it just gets a little bit further out. You certainly flushed that one, big fella.
I did. For some reason, I like them a little bit further away. Similar to you, Richo. We actually struggle a little bit closer to goal. So
that's right, Max.
Hey, Max, how's the head? Obviously, you put the arm out. You thought Reece was maybe going to come and body you up, but next second he's on top of your head kneeing you.
Yeah, I got that one wrong. Every ball up and throw in gives you a different chance to play your ruckman in a different way, and I played that one wrong. But no, look, I had the on-ground questionnaire by the doctor, and I think I nailed 9 out of 10. The one I didn't get, but we ended up getting. We got in about 7 seconds, but I stood there for about 6 seconds going, "Who the hell did we play last week?" It was a while ago, that game, but we got there. We both said Richard Richmond, and away I went. And I've woken up really good this morning, and obviously was symptom-free, which was the key part to be able to keep playing.
Max, they're a great side, Geelong, but I was really happy in one way for your coach. When the way that the game started, I thought, gee, the planning for it, and I know they plan every week, but I just thought you took everything away that was strong about the Geelong side. Even though the score wasn't, you weren't getting away margin-wise, I just thought how to go into a game with a plan and then it to all work out, like keeping the ball yourself, keeping them engaged in their forward line, and then also finding your back line just getting with a couple of loose blokes where you need it. So it just must have been so good. It gives a group real confidence when those sort of things work.
Yeah, you're right. We certainly had a plan around Geelong going into the game, and they're one of the best defensive setups going around. Certainly if you play slow and long down the line, they just will pick you off. And you got Tom Stewart and Jack Henry and DeConning, and they'll just sit down there and mark them all day, Guthrie and whatnot. So we had to sort of go a different way. And I've got a great indicator of when we're playing good football. It's our wingers get involved. And I thought Ed and Caleb both played extremely good games last night, which is a great indicator for us that we're moving the ball to our wings and we're not exactly just going down the line for myself and Harry Petty every contest. But when we did do that, Harry Petty definitely stood up and took some marks. So it's not just constantly switching the ball and constantly going 45. You've got to attack them at their strength as well, and we're able to do both.
Well, I tell you what, Harrison Petty brought back memories, I reckon, of David Swartz and David Neitz, I would think. But that was just sensational. Just the conduit between them coming off the back half, and it just releases pressure that they don't get the ball in their hand and go forward as hard as they normally do.
Yeah, Harry, to his own admission, hadn't been at his best since he's come back into the team, but the game we saw last night was similar to what we saw at the end of last year. Didn't hit the scoreboard as much as he did last year in his big games, but he was probably playing a bit higher up the ground and left the deep stuff to Bailey Fritsch and Jacob Van Rooyen. So, he looked powerful in those long down the line mark contests. I think he might have taken 4 or 5, which is pretty much right up there for a centre half forward in terms of their output to be able to take 5 contested marks down the line.
Hey, Max, do we talk about Judd McVie enough? I think this guy doesn't get beaten one-on-one, and last night he's had a dozen intercept possessions. For a young player, he's super consistent. I don't feel like we talk about him enough.
No, we probably don't talk about him internally enough as well. He just goes about his stuff. We got some pretty good defenders down there with Stephen May and Jake Lever, and then also in terms of the smalls, we got Trent Rivers and Christian Salem that do their thing. So Judd and Blake Howes sort of they're the 5th and 6th guy that we talk about, but they're playing an incredible role. They both played on Stengel for a lot of the time last night, and Stengel is the reigning All-Australian forward pocket and probably one of the better ones in the comp. So to have a guy like Blake Howes who's playing his 8th game, and then a guy like Judd McVie who's playing his 20th game, to be able to play on Stengel and not look out of place and actually get some intercept possession themselves, like you said, Richo, is pretty impressive. And to be able to play 5 or 6 guys that are under the 10-game mark at the moment and still be able to be competitive and win games against top 4 teams just shows that we're probably good for a while in terms of some of these guys on our list.
What about down the other end, that lethal operator we were talking about, Bailey Fritsch? I mean, you just go back to the middle, Maxie, when he gets it in his hands. He is as good a finisher as there is in the game.
He is. He does a lot of work on it. Between him and Ben Brown, they're both out there for an extremely long time with their set shot routine. They're polar opposites. Bailey Fritsch is actually quite a short run up and Ben Brown's a long one, but he certainly can hit the ball very well. And he's field kicking as well. I think that's underestimated how good he is around the field of his left foot as well. So we're trying to get him up the ground a little bit more at different times to get him involved. He can't just be this guy who, I mean, he can if he wants to, but just to have 4 or 5 touches and all of them being shots on goal, because he's got such a good left foot where we could actually use him up the ground a little bit more. So those of a close eye on last night would have seen him at around stoppage in the forward half a little bit more. So hopefully he can develop that role.
He's almost every annoying stereotype of the mid-sized forward, Max. Like he doesn't miss, good ball use, doesn't need a mouth guard because he just cruises around and he keeps finding space inside forward 50.
And has had the same haircut for 10 years. Actually, it doesn't move. It just stays
it's impeccable
for the whole game.
It's as thick as you'll get too.
Yeah, he's got a great head of hair. Obviously, it's tough for me to comment on hair, but he certainly has a strong set of hair and a great hairline. He's not losing that for a long time.
No, it's thick. It's like a Lego man there, Max. You've been around footy long enough. You've been to the top, premiership, lots of finals campaigns. Would it be fair to say this is probably as galvanised as you've been as a group? I know there's been a lot of noise around Melbourne Footy Club, especially in the early part of the year with different issues going on, but it seems to have galvanised this group.
That's a tough one to answer, because obviously in 21 we're in a Perth hub, so it's tough to compare to the feeling that we had there, because we lived with each other for 30 days to win a flag. So, but if you take out that hub stuff, certainly we are an extremely close group. A lot of the noise that's been spoken about this club is from a decade ago or 5 or 6 years ago, and a lot of the guys you would have seen last night were not involved, were not there, have no idea what anyone's talking about. And it's just a new Melbourne Football Club, which I'm really excited to be a part of. We're quite tight, we're united, we're playing really good football, we're very coachable. I think that's one of the things you led from the top. If Goody has this plan about how we go out against Geelong, but it's up to us to be able to go out there and do it as well. So it's an extremely exciting group to be a part of. But we've got some tough opposition coming up. We got the Blues on a Thursday, and they're coming off 2 pretty big nail-biting losses. So and they knocked us out of the finals last season in a nail-biting game. They only know how to play nail-biters, Carlton. So. It's pretty exciting that we have some form going into that game, and we can challenge ourselves against probably the best offensive and defensive team going around.
You're the best in the business with Ruckcraft, and Shorey and I have been talking a lot about this next one. Shorey, it's your ability now to stick that big the big fender out, the big arm bar. Has that completely changed the way Ruckcraft is being done this year?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was intended by the brains of the AFL, but it's caused a lot of wrestling.
I'm with you.
Which I'm not the biggest fan of, to be honest. I love to jump, and I had me and Reece had a great matchup last night, jumping a lot. But I like to use my arm within my jump, which is something that I've had to try and learn not to do over the last 3 or 4 years, but I'm allowed to do it a little bit more now, which is exciting. But I've got to actually train myself to what I was doing sort of 5 years ago, being able to use it again. But certainly the guys that I'd say jumping isn't their strength. They're going full wrestle at the moment, so they'll find that balance. It's just a new rule that's come out, and we're 7 or 8 weeks in, and hopefully there is a bit of noise around some of the guys that were strong at centre bounce, especially with their jump being maybe going extinct, but you see this with ruck work a lot, that a new rule comes in and everyone goes, it's going to kill this version of this ruckman, but after 15 weeks it all sort of levels each other out, and you'll see Mason Cox and Reece Stanley and these guys who are really good jumpers come back and they'll be the strong guys again.
Hey Max, so do the AFL bother ringing sort of the premier ruckman like yourself and Why wouldn't they ring you and ask
I'm with you,
your
but
opinion?
They don't have an outline at the AFL.
I feel
It's
like
only incoming
it's
calls.
common sense, though, isn't it? Surely they'd ring the best ruckman in the game and get your opinion on a rule change.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but probably not as someone that's currently playing, because I would sort of dictate the rule to my strength
right,
to an absolute T. So I'm sure they're ringing like a Luke Darcy, Dean Cox, some of the guys that have just freshly out of it, and I'm sure they are having some sort of input. I hope they are, because if they're doing it, these rule changes, and there's not a ruckman involved, I'm actually a little bit worried there. But yeah, there seems to be a ruck change every single year, so we just got to learn to deal with them.
Jimmy, I'm glad you said that. That's part of my roast today with a couple of other variations on it. But the other thing is, how do you know as captain that your team is on? You know, you can do as what you want to do in the rooms. You can go up the race. You can get together before the game. But is there an indicator for you that you see very early in the game? And you said the wingman, getting involved. That means you were set up well. But what about attitude? Because you had a 10-day break, and I was worried about maybe, can you lose the urgency to know what level you've got to get to in that time?
Yeah, it's certainly a tough read pre-game now.
Yeah, right.
And Tony, I'm sure from where you played your footy and coached, it's completely different change rooms now. I have this conversation with Mark Choco Williams pre-game. I said, if you saw this many blokes laughing in the Port Adelaide era of 04, do you reckon you'd be playing all right footy? He goes, I would have whacked them between the eyes long before they started laughing. So it's a little bit more calm, jovial in the rooms, but certainly that last 20 minutes when everyone switches on, it's a great time to be a bystander in the change rooms, because you can see a real lift in the group. And ours is certainly our first 5 minutes. Our contest work, we like to think we're one of the best contest teams in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, and if that's on in the first 5-6 minutes, you certainly can see for hopefully a good showing from our boys.
Max, before we let you go, you're not quite a mammal because you're not middle-aged, but you do love the Lycra, and it's tour season coming up, the Tour de France and the Giro d'Italia. Are you all prepped and ready to go for a big season of watching?
The Giro was on last night, stage 1, Jim, so very, very topical, and I'm sure there's a few listeners out there that might have stayed up and watched last night. The hot favourite got beat, which is good for cycling. And the hot favourite's a guy named Tadej Pogacar. He's won pretty much everything in the last 6 years. But he got beat. So there's 9 Aussies over there, hopefully fighting for a little stage win at some point. I don't get out on the bike as much as I would like during the season, because, one, it's extremely cold in Melbourne, and I'm not that brave. And the other one is it can lead to a little bit of overuse of my legs, and they're pretty important come Saturday. But I do get out on the bike a lot. In fact, I could actually, what time's the game? We could go for another half an hour talking all things cycling if you want to.
No, we'll have to get you back on to get another update as the big tours roll around.
Correspondent.
You will be our correspondent.
I tell you what, if I was coach and I knew my captain was on a bike on the streets of Melbourne with the idiots driving cars, there is no way known he'd be doing it.
Thanks, Max. Tony. You brought out Grumpy Shorey. Thanks for that.
I'd love to see what Shorey was like coaching. His players would have been right in line, I dare.
I'll tell you what, it would have been frightening. But as always, thanks for your time, Max. Max Gawn, Melbourne skipper, after a fantastic win against the Cats.